Hello and welcome to another Mon County Read Aloud. I want to show you what it did outside yesterday. Can you see all that snow? Well, that made me think of one of my favorite tales about a cat named Henry. I don't know if it's the name because I had a cat who was quite a character too, but I'm guessing that Mary Calhoun might have had a character of a cat named Henry because she wrote several stories about Henry, and over her lifetime she wrote over 50 stories for children. Those of the Katie Johns series you might also find in the library, but she started out as a newspaper reporter and decided that she really wanted to do stories. And this, as I said, is one of my favorites called CrossCountry Cat. And Erick Ingraham, I think, really brought Henry to life. But what I'm going to do, because the snow has quite a glare today, is I'm going to switch our camera around so that it will be not reflecting on the camera, but hopefully you'll be able to see the pictures better this way. So, CrossCountry Cat by Mary Calhoun. And this is how it starts. Henry was a hind leg walker. Some cats can do that, not all. My Henry actually could. It started with chasing flies, and he decided he liked that way of prancing. He even danced to the music on the stereo when his folks weren't watching, or so we thought. I can see them peeking. Of course, Henry chased mice on all 4 feet, but when he felt full of that old pizzazz, he stalked around on those back legs, swishing his tail for balance. "Some smart cat," said the kid and the woman. "Idiotic cat," said the man. Still, Henry pranced to please himself. One time, they were up at the mountain cabin for a weekend of cross-country skiing. "You ought to try skiing, Henry," said the kid. And he decided to make a little pair of cross-country skis and poles for Henry. In the carport, the kid found an old roof shingle that was starting to curl up at the ends. And out of the shingle, he carved 2 skinny skis. He waxed the bottoms and tacked leather thongs to the top for the foot bindings. Small ends of pine boughs with their brushes of needles made pretty good ski poles. Out in the deep snow, the kid stood Henry up and pushed his back feet into the ski bindings. "Okay, Henry, try a slide." "Oh!" Henry refused. He dropped down on all 4 feet and the front end of him sank into the snow. He spat snow off his whiskers. Those people were crazy to want to slide around on the snow. "Guess I'll never make a skier out of you, cat," said the kid, taking off Henry's skis. Now, the next afternoon, they packed up to go home, and Henry settled in the back of the 4-wheel drive on a stack of dirty long underwear. He was smoothing out his whiskers for the trip when suddenly he remembered his mouse. He left it under the kid's bed. His mouse was a fluff of purple yarn, and Henry never traveled anywhere without it. So he slid out of the car and dodged into the cabin as the kid struggled out the door with a big garbage sack. Henry found his fluff and shoved through the cat door just in time to see them drive off. "Oh, yow, meow," he yelled. But they didn't hear. Henry's tail bushed out in fright. They wouldn't know he wasn't in the car until they got down to town that night. And Henry didn't think they'd come back for him. The man was driving, and the man didn't like cats anyway. Oh, what was Henry going to do? Henry would miss them, though. He liked to purr up against the woman's shoulder, and his hind feet braced on her arm. He liked it when the kid smoothed down his back and pulled his tail just a tiny tug. That kept his ears standing up straight. And he liked to sleep in the man's chair. terrible thing. He couldn't get back in the cabin because the cat door only opened out so that the skunks couldn't get in. And there was snow all over the ground. Snow was coming down thick on the road, snow too deep for even a smart Siamese cat to walk through. The only way out was to ski out on that cold, wet stuff. Henry's whiskers turned down in disgust. Nevertheless, he put down his mouse and he hunted around the carport until he found his little skis and poles tossed in a corner. Henry was already dressed warmly for the journey, because of his fur, of course. What else did he need? Provisions. So Henry cleaned out the carport of mice and tied them up in a rag. He put his purple fluff mouse in the rag sack too, and then he tied the rag sack to the end of his tail. At last he pushed his hind feet into the ski bindings and he was ready to go. Henry took a step on the snow, and a step, teeter, he almost fell, but he lashed his tail and caught his balance. Cross-country skiing was harder than it looked. Plod, plod. It was hard to get any kind of glide and slide. No rhythm. Then Henry remembered a song the kid used to sing. This old man, he played knick-knack on my thumb. And Henry tried stepping his skis in time to the song, and he sang, yow meow, yow meow, yow meow, meow meow. And his skis went step and slide over the snow in perfect rhythm. And by the time he got to knick-knack paddywhack, he was skating on his skis and waving his tail to the beat. His pine bough ski poles plopped neat brushy tracks in the snow, and that rag sack swung from the tip of his jaunty tail. He looks like he's on a roll. The snow stopped falling and the sun came out, and Henry narrowed his blue eyes against the sparkle of the snow as he skied cross-country toward town. In a meadow, he came down a hill, and of course, Henry's knees were already bent, so he crouched for the run, loose and breezy. And when he got to the bottom, he liked that slide so well, he tramped back up the hill and came down again on his smoother trail, fairly sailing down. Wee-haw, he said. Now he knew why the kid liked to slide on the snow. Down by a stream, Henry saw an elk plowing through the snow up to his belly. It was heavy going for that poor old elk. Yow, meow! Henry zipped by on the top of the snow. Some smart cat. Lipperty up from behind, a snowshoe rabbit pulled alongside Henry. Think you're fast, said the rabbit. Want a drag? Yow, meow! Slide and glide, and for 30 seconds, Henry raced with the rabbit, and then the rabbit disappeared over the hill while Henry was still plodding up the slope. Smart aleck rabbit. The way led through some woods, and as Henry skied toward the trees, a black-crested blue jay swooped down, screeching and scolding. Stay out of my woods, Jay, Jay! Henry snapped his teeth and rushed after the bird, thrusting with his poles, but that blue jay just flew ahead of Henry, dipping and lifting and jeering until he soared up into a pine tree. Smart aleck jaybird. The sun went under a cloud, and the woods seemed lonely after the jay went away. Meow, meow. Henry was getting tired, so he stopped and untied his rag sack, and he ate his mouse. All except his purple mouse, of course. Just as he was tying the sack back to his tail, he saw something slinking after him way back in the woods. Can you see that? It was a coyote. Yow! Henry wanted to scramble up the tree, but his back feet were caught in the skis. What was he gonna do? Henry dashed between the trees with his tail bushed out, and he sped up his rhythm. Yow, yow, smart cat, smart cat. And the coyote came loping along behind him. Henry darted out of the woods to a field where the snow was deeper for the coyote to run through. But Henry's legs were tired, and his rhythm stumbled. Stupid cat, stupid cat. This does not look good. It was getting dark and starting to snow again. The coyote drew nearer as Henry's beat slowed to foolish feline, foolish feline. His tail drooped and dragged on the snow. He could hear the coyote snapping his teeth, and Henry, plodding one ski after another, thought it was end of the line, end of the line. Just then, Henry's skis tilted on a steep downhill slope. The snow was crusted on top, soft underneath. It was just right for a cross-country cat and just wrong for a heavy coyote. Henry gave a good push with his poles, and meow, he sailed down the mountain. Yep, yep, yaroo, the coyote howled, sinking into the deep snow far behind. That was a quick save. Henry skidded out onto a road below. Oh, great glaring eyes! No, the eyes were the lights of a car coming, and the car had two heads. The man's head stuck out of one window, trying to see through the falling snow. The man looked pretty mad, but he was coming. The kid's head stuck out of the other window, and he saw Henry. Look at that cross-country cat, yelled the kid. Quickly, Henry threw away his ski poles, and while the car was stopping, he pulled his feet loose from his skis and shoved the skis under the snow. He thrashed and floundered in the drifts. Help, meow, he cried piteously. After all, the man had come back for him, so let the man think he had saved Henry's life. Some smart cat. I think Henry was quite the smart cat, don't you? In thinking how to do that and get on his skis and get them to work. What imagination Mary Calhoun has. And as I said, she's written other about Henry. She wrote Henry the Sailor Cat, Hot Air Henry with hot air balloons, which around the Morgantown area we see every year. And another one, Blue Ribbon Henry. So see if you can find them in your library and check out the other adventures that Henry might have.